I guess this video is called Searching for Polly. A few years ago, as I was saying on the bike, I was riding along here and we stopped just up here, kind of roughly over there where my bike is parked. And I just had a friendly tourist take a picture of me and my bike, because it's a standard thing. I pretty much have to do everywhere now. But yeah, so we were driving along and it was really, really windy, much windier than it is today. And what happens when it's really windy is all of the seabirds, they line up along the railings, and it just created the most beautiful picture. And yeah, it's just really nice to be kind of back here, back in Grimsby, spending some time walking along the beach, trying to not get sand in my shoes. But yeah, no, absolutely lovely. And I just thought I'd take a minute just to kind of yeah, have a wander along, have a little recollection, and let's have a talk about horizon lines. So let's talk about rule of thirds, and let's use this as a quick spot. So as you can see as the camera, that's pretty much bang on the horizon line. That's on the top horizon line. I kind of call that the level line and the horizon line, because that would be a picture that's balanced on the horizon, whereas that's a picture split into thirds quite neatly. And as you can see, the symmetricalness of that picture looks pretty cool. Really good sky detail today. But if you kind of balance it out and do something like that, let's put that end of the pier right on that top kind of cross section where those rule of thirds cross over. That's a pretty cool image there. And if I change that a little bit over and come to this side and reverse that, that's a pretty good composition in there. So should you really stick to the rule of thirds as often as you should? I mean, should you really stick to the rule of thirds at all? And yes, kind of. Some people will tell you rules are there to be broken, but the rule of thirds actually really, really works very, very well. It's a tried and tested way of getting some good solid foundations built into your photography. Yes, break them, play with them, evolve them, turn them into your style. But if you really kind of understand why it's a rule, how it works, it really will help your photography. The idea is that pictures should have a way that when someone looks at them, you want them to look at the picture and you want their attention span to go into it. You want them to be able to read the image. You want them to be able to look one place and then have your photography and your composition take them to another part of the picture. That's what we talk about when an image is interesting to the eye or leads the eye. It's a picture that immediately draws you to one area, but then the content and the composition moves the eye to another part. And that's, in essence, great composition. And the rule of thirds will really genuinely help you do that. Let's have a look at some pictures that can be enhanced with a good strong crop, because sometimes when we're out taking the photographs, we don't always see the perfect image. We know that there's something in the frame and we just take a picture, or it could be that sometimes the crop that we're looking for is different afterwards. For example, a lot of the images I tend to print and that I frame, I crop for an 8:10. However, when I take them, they're more of a 16:9 kind of aspect ratio. If I'm whatever the camera sets really. So if I'm using a medium format camera, it has a slightly different crop ratio to if I'm using a Fujifilm with the APS-C sensor. Or if I'm taking something specifically for Instagram, it would have a square crop. And cropping these images differently for when they get used for whatever they get used for can sometimes be quite a skill. There can be many crops within inside a specific image, and finding the correct crop for the correct picture for the correct use can be quite a challenge sometimes. Finding the correct crop for the correct image is always quite an important thing. This image of Molly, Dolly, Ollie and Polly has it's cropped. It's been cropped onto Instagram. It's been cropped as a panoramic, as a 3x1. So it's been 1x1. It's been 3x1. It's been 10x8 and 16x9. And because the image was very was shot with a very strong original composition, it's enabled it to be cropped in a few different ways, which is quite handy. But yeah, I do tend to stick to my horizon lines and my vertical lines as much as possible when shooting. When we take a photograph using a camera, any sort of camera, we are going to be getting some barrel distortion in at some point. Usually the wider focal length we use, the more distortion we get. The more money that we pay for that lens, the less distortion we get. So there's going to be a few trade-offs in the middle, but usually if we're shooting super long length, we start to get distortion in different types of ways, like a pin barrel distortion rather than a barrel distortion. But either way, getting vertical is really, really good. And when you're photographing something, having the grid up on your camera is a great way to try and get the best image possible for you to then fix afterwards. So the tips here are slightly overcrop and shoot with the grid on the frame of the camera, so you can see how tilting your camera up and tilting down, you can see on the camera, on the picture, how much you're going to have to fix afterwards, and therefore you can see how much you're going to have to overcrop that image by. When it comes to, I'm going that way. When it comes to, I think I've gone totally the wrong. Is this Thorpe Park? Have I just ridden to Thorpe Park? I have. There is Thorpe Park. I thought this is closed. This is so funny. I'm literally driving into Thorpe Park. I was trying to find the road to Mablethorpe. I've gone to Thorpe Park instead. How funny is that? I'm gonna just have to turn around. Welcome to Thorpe Park. I have completely lost track of where I was. I'm just going to pick up with vertical. Oh, hang on. Verticals were vertical, and yeah. So you want to get your verticals vertical. So you can do that by using the grid on your camera. You can see how far wrong it's going to be, and you can overcrop, knowing that in Lightroom that you're going to fix it. That's where I was. However, when it comes to horizontals, I'm a big fan of either having having your picture perfectly horizontal, your horizon lines being perfectly horizontal with everything else in the picture, or not. So finding things that are 45 degree or more in the image is great. What I'm not a terribly big fan of is lots of things that are close to level or close to horizontal in a picture, because that kind of somehow upsets the balance of the image. So let's look at these two images, for example. Both of these images have perfectly vertical verticals, but there's nothing horizontal in the image whatsoever. And what that does is that really helps with the composition. And what I was saying earlier about your eye leading from one place to another place in that particular image, it's really, really nice, and I think it's really, really strong, because the idea is that someone looks into one part of the image, usually around about here, and then it draws their eye across the picture to another place. And again, that's what we're talking about with really good composition, when the image naturally has leading lines that lead it from one place to another. This is, for me, I'm not this particular image, because I took this particular image, but this technique, when done well, is really a powerful way to elevate your photography up into another level. It's something street photographers, way wiser than I am, do explicitly well. So I still haven't found the road to Mablethorpe. Oh, there it is. Mablethorpe, Tetney, A1031. I am turning right. I eventually found it. So I will, I'm a little bit behind schedule, so I'm going to get a move on. So I'm going to love you all and leave you. And I guess since Stephanie is going to be editing this video, she's going to put something random and funny and good at the end of it to save another very awful DKP production.